September 1st, 1983. 3 a.m. Pitch black darkness over the Sea of Japan. High above the clouds, a Soviet Sukhoi 15 fighter jet cuts through the night. The pilot, Major Gennady Osipovich, is tense. His finger is hovering over the weapon release trigger. His radar is locked onto a massive target, a flying object that has violated Soviet airspace. To the Russian military command, this is an American spy plane, an intruder sent by Ronald Reagan to test their defenses. Major Osipovich radios his commander. The target is flying with its lights on. I see navigation lights. He hesitates. Spy planes usually fly in the dark, but the order from the ground comes back screaming in his headset, "Destroy the target!" The major squeezes the trigger. 2 K-8 air-to-air missiles rocket off his wings. 30 seconds later, a massive explosion lights up the sky. The target begins a slow, terrifying spiral toward the ocean. But Major Osipovich didn't shoot down a spy plane. He had just fired 2 missiles at a civilian Boeing 747, carrying 269 innocent people. Welcome to Aviation Archives. This is the story of Korean Airlines Flight 007, the mistake that almost started World War III. To understand this tragedy, we have to remember what the world looked like in 1983. The Cold War was at its boiling point. The United States and the Soviet Union were staring each other down, fingers on the nuclear button. The paranoia was extreme. If a leaf blew across the Soviet border, they assumed it was an American spy. In the middle of this tension sat Korean Airlines Flight 007. It was a routine flight from New York City to Seoul, South Korea, with a stopover in Anchorage, Alaska. The plane was the Queen of the Skies, a massive Boeing 747-200. On board were families, businessmen, and even a United States Congressman, Larry McDonald. The captain was Chun Byung-in, a seasoned veteran with 10,000 hours of flight time. He had flown this route hundreds of times. He knew the dangers of flying near Russian territory, but on this night, he made a tiny error before he even left the ground. The flight left Anchorage without incident, but in the cockpit, a silent problem was already growing. The Boeing 747 used an inertial navigation system, or INS. To use it, the pilots have to switch the autopilot selector from heading to INS. Investigators believe that shortly after takeoff, the pilots were distracted. They left the switch in heading mode. This meant the plane wasn't following the computer's complex map. It was simply flying in a straight magnetic line, mile by mile, hour by hour. Flight 007 drifted off course. It drifted north, further north, until it crossed a line that no civilian plane should ever cross. It flew directly into the most secret, heavily guarded airspace on the planet, the Kamchatka Peninsula, the home of the Soviet Union's nuclear submarine fleet. Inside Soviet radar stations, alarms began to scream. A massive blip had appeared on their screens. It was flying straight over their secret military bases. The Soviet commanders were panicked. Earlier that day, a real American spy plane, an RC-135, had been patrolling the area. The Soviets assumed this blip was the spy plane coming back for more. They scrambled their fighter jets. Major Osipovich took off in his Sukhoi 15 interceptor. He pushed his engines to the limit, chasing the intruder. At 35,000 feet, he caught up. He saw the silhouette of the massive Boeing against the stars. He saw the blinking navigation lights. He even fired warning shots, bursts of cannon fire. But his cannon shells didn't have tracer rounds. They were invisible in the dark. Inside the 747, the Korean pilots saw nothing. They were totally unaware they were being hunted. In a tragic twist of fate, just as the fighter jet lined up behind them, the Korean captain decided to climb to save fuel. The plane slowed down and pitched up. To the Soviet pilot, this looked like an evasive maneuver. He thought the spy plane was trying to escape. He radioed ground control. "The target is maneuvering." The ground commander shouted, "Fire! Destroy the target." 3:26 a.m. Major Osipovich fired. One missile hit near the tail, the other hit the fuselage. The explosion severed the hydraulic lines and blew a massive hole in the cabin. Inside Flight 007, chaos erupted. The cabin instantly depressurized. The oxygen masks dropped. The plane shuddered violently and rolled over on its back. The cockpit voice recorder captured the final moments. You can hear the captain shouting to his co-pilot, "Engine's normal! What's happened?" They didn't know they had been shot. They thought it was a mechanical failure. For 12 terrifying minutes, the massive jumbo jet spiraled down toward the freezing ocean. It wasn't a nosedive, it was a slow, suffocating circles. Finally, the plane disappeared from radar. It smashed into the Sea of Japan, disintegrating on impact. There were no survivors. When the sun rose, the world demanded answers. The United States accused the Soviet Union of murder. President Ronald Reagan went on television and called it a crime against humanity. But the Soviets? They lied. They claimed they never shot it down. Then, they claimed it was definitely a spy plane. They refused to apologize. But deep beneath the ocean, a secret race was happening. The Americans sent Navy ships to find the black box flight recorders. They wanted to prove the plane was innocent. The Soviets sent their own submarines, with orders to find the black boxes and hide them. And the Soviets won. They found the wreckage first. Their divers went down in secret submersibles. They recovered the black boxes. And then they kept them hidden in a Kremlin vault for 10 years. The world spent a decade arguing. Conspiracy theories ran wild. Was it a spy plane? Did the pilots fake the crash? Nobody knew the truth until the Soviet Union collapsed. In 1992, 10 years after the crash, the new Russian president, Boris Yeltsin, handed the black boxes over to the world. The recordings proved everything. Flight 007 was not a spy plane. The pilots were not secret agents. They were just men who made a simple navigation error. They were chatting, joking, and relaxing right up until the moment the missiles hit. They died because of a misunderstanding, because of fear, because two superpowers were too paranoid to pick up the phone and talk. But there is one reason why this tragedy matters to you. Sitting here today. After the crash, President Ronald Reagan realized that civilian planes needed a better way to navigate. The old systems were too dangerous. The U.S. military had a secret technology called Global Positioning System, GPS. Because of the death of Flight 007, Reagan signed an order to make GPS available for civilian use. So, every time you use Google Maps on your phone or the sat-nav in your car, remember this flight. We have GPS today because 269 people lost their lives in the dark over the Sea of Japan. Flight 007 was a tragedy of the air, but the history of aviation is full of final destinations. If you want to know where the largest flying machines on Earth go to die, you need to watch our documentary on Point Nemo. It is the final resting place for the massive Soviet space station, Mir, and soon it will be the crash site for the International Space Station. Click the video on your screen right now to see the ultimate graveyard for aerospace history. I will see you there.